Welcome to the Strong, Single and Human podcast, a real look at single parenting, how to navigate the ups and downs of life with kids on your own while keeping sane. We cover all manner of subjects from domestic violence, dealing with childhood trauma, through to fussy eaters and how to help your kids become resilient. I'm your host, Claire Martin. Welcome. Veronica Williams is the co-owner of Alliance Seminar Coaching, which is a veteran-owned, faith-based organisation that provides clients with motivational speaking, certified workshops and coaching services. She has been involved in life coaching for many years, and her experience has influenced women and couples throughout the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. She utilises her gifts, talents and knowledge to encourage women and to strengthen couples. She also coaches military wives as the spouse of a veteran herself, helping women manoeuvre through the challenges that comes with a military lifestyle. This is the Strong, Single, Inhuman podcast. Hi, welcome Veronica Williams to the podcast. Welcome. To our little family.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
No, it's great to have you here. I can't wait to have this conversation with you. You have just seen and met so many fantastic people in your journey. So it's just brilliant. I really want to find out a little bit more about you and what you do. So without further ado, because I've given a brief synopsis, around who you are and like what you've done as such, but it's only a brief 2-minute explanation. So look, tell us a little bit about your journey and what you actually do today for people.
Yes, I am Veronica Williams. I am a master certified life coach as well as a licensed minister. I am the co-founder of Alliance Seminars Coaching. And because of having so many challenges in my own life, particularly dealing with miscarriages and having children at an older age, as well as having twins, I felt I lived enough to learn what I've learned from others and gleaned in my own life experiences, that I wanted to give back by sharing with others. And that is why my primary focus is on relationships, empowerment, and purpose. And I just want to make a note here that relationships is not always all about others. It can also be about taking care of yourself.
Yeah, and and for a lot of us single parents, that's the one relationship we actually ignore, neglect. We're always focusing on all of the other relationships we have in our world, relationships with the other parent, our exes, or relationships with our children, or starting new relationships, which part of me goes, oh, don't start those too early, because then you're just going out there again for trouble, right? So with all of that, right, do you actually coach, do you actually coach a particular group of people as such? Do you coach couples who are seeking help? Do you coach teens? Or do you just coach everyone who's got relationship issues? Sorry.
Yeah, it's just about everyone that has relationship issues, but we do couples that are engaged.
Wow.
And couples that are married, and I like to say that have some hiccups and need some navigation through the situations that they're going through by a third party, to just talk it out. Sometimes to realize that the other spouse's words are what they have to say is to be valued. We also coach or do facilitating as well as workshops for organizations that want to build better relationships among their employees,
Okay.
moving forward as well as in leadership.
So what would you say is one of the things that gets neglected in like, what's one of the hardest things that we would deal with in relationships with people in general, right? With our work colleagues, with our partners, with our kids, right? Like what's the one thing that normally goes awry and like we should actually be focusing on?
Communication,
Right.
sharing
Okay.
your thoughts, letting the other person know what you're thinking, what you're experiencing, how you feel, and then being honest in the relationship, being authentic, be who you say that you are, because once you enter the relationship, um, you know, it's all in for the realness of you. We can, when you can put on a facade in the pre development of your relationship, but
Yeah. The
when you
honeymoon
really
period.
the honeymoon period are but when it really comes together, you really are faced with being truthful, honest, and really sharing yourself. Wanting to be mutually loved and mutually respected are some things to add in. That is what I would say with relationships. Communication is the biggest piece. For couples that have been together for a little bit, and they may have some hiccups, I see sometimes they don't feel emotionally connected. And a part of that being emotionally connected is that they're not spending time talking about real issues and real day-to-day things that need to be talked about, discussed, handled, however you want to say it, and feeling
So
some period of isolation.
how do they become disconnected though, right? Because we all go into these relationships. We all go into these relationships with, well, I don't know if eyes wide open or with rose-colored glasses on it, right? But like none of us ever start a relationship to get a divorce, right? Or to have these hiccups, right? So how do we get to a point in a relationship where we love somebody? So, we start off in this honeymoon period where we love them so deeply and everything is honey and roses and like, it's great and they're great. And then as we slowly come out of that honeymoon period, right, we then decide, oh, actually, they pick their nose in the car in the morning as they're driving us to work or whatever it may be, right? But how do we get this disconnection, and then how do we reconnect? And I'm a single parent, right? And so even how do I reconnect? I didn't start a relationship with my son's father with the view that I was going to be bringing up his son on my own as such. So then how do I reconnect with him to enable us to bring up a healthy boy? So it's lots of questions there. Sorry, I've got so many questions for you. So, why do couples disconnect then? Why do we get this disconnection? Let's go back to that question.
Yeah, let's talk about that honeymoon phase you talked about. We make all the adjustments, with our schedules when we're getting together. Are you available? Yes, yes, yes. I have this, or let's connect afterwards, right? So that right there puts us like, oh yes, we're really have a lot of things in common. We're really connected. But then life happens where you have to kind of back up a little bit and really pay attention to your own individual lives, whether it be work, whether it be children, whether it be family, and all of the aspects that your life covers when prior to that relationship starting. So it's learning how to intertwine both lives and then making time for each other. So when we get so busy and we just feel like, oh, they know I love them. Oh, I got this to do. I got this to do. I have to work late. You got this, right? But really sitting down and really having critical conversations, deep conversations. And in relationships, just like when we plan in our lives for our careers, there's some goals that we have. I think couples don't really sit down and talk about goals. They don't sit down and talk about the excess baggage in their lives, whatever it is. They don't talk about deeply. They roll over, oh, this is just a phase, whether it's some addictions there. The family makeup. What parts of your family are you bringing into the relationship? What part do you not like? What part do you think might work for us? Talking about both sides of the family, realizing that even though, God tells us to leave your mother and father and cleave unto your spouse, he's not really saying abandon your family, because your family is going to always be there. But he's saying take up your lives together and be independent for whatever you were relying, a lot of times if it's younger couples, it's typically geared towards maybe they are, the parents were financially dependent on their parents. And some people are just emotionally dependent on their parents for when it comes time to make decisions. Instead of talking to their spouse, they talk to someone else, whether it's family, friends, or whomever. But really having to sit down and really have those hard conversations, and realizing that these are some things that happens in my family during the holidays. How can we navigate them through? Especially for me and my husband, we both had family that was out of the state. So, but a lot of people have family within the state. How do you going to navigate and bring in the fold of your family? How do I now let my spouse be the primary first person of my concern versus my family that used to be that way? So a lot of that is how we navigate through relationships to build your own foundation. So no one ever talks about how are we gonna, now that we're together, what does it look like for you? Where do you want it to go? How are we gonna keep those things going? Now that we have children, how do you still meet the needs of either spouse? Lots of times, one spouse, both spouses, the children now comes in the middle of the relationship and they don't have that connection anymore because everything is all about the children, the children, the children. Well, the children are going to grow up one day. They're going to mature, and then you're going to be left by yourself.
You're going to be left with your partner.
With your partner, and you're going to say, who are you? Where are you? Because we lost taking care of each other and focus more on the children, where we were to just have the focus on all of us and seeing to the child's need or the children's needs, but most importantly, meeting the needs of our spouse. Because just because you have one child, you have a second child, the relationship is still needing nurturing. And we don't often nurture the relationships as we implement new things in our life, whether it be children, careers, family, life itself that have the challenges. And that's an area of the disconnect that could possibly happen in relationships.
So what are some of the greatest challenges that you see out there in relationships that we've got at the moment, like whether that be whether that you're just starting a relationship, whether you're in a horrible, nasty relationship, and whether you're trying to build a relationship back with your child as such.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is we don't notice the red flags.
Okay.
We don't notice the things that are toxic in the relationship. We may see it, but we say, oh, it'll go away. You know, that's just who they are. But we do have to take a pause and work on those things, whether it's going through a coach like myself, or either because with me as a coach, it's moving from today forward. Or we would recommend that you see whether it's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, some type of therapist, a marriage counselor, because sometimes when we get in relationships, we don't really talk about our past. We kind of skim through it. And so a lot of times issues that come up could potentially be stemmed from our past of situations that have gone on, whether it's traumas or just small things that have created who we are or have been in our lives, but we didn't really know that it is toxic. So we need to talk to someone to help us navigate, talk it through. What am I doing wrong? And then sometimes we're in relationships, like you were saying, that are toxic or that go wrong. We need to figure out what are the boundaries in relationships. We need to identify the boundaries, let's say it like that. We need to identify what's really going on if we're always arguing or having some conflict. Is it really the situation now? Or is it something that happened in the past that didn't get resolved and now today we're taking it to a higher level? So a lot of that falls into the relationship without, and it could be subtle. And then it could be, we don't really, the observances that we have, we don't really, it depends on what your desires are. You know, I don't want to mess this up. But sometimes when we get together with people, we need to just identify, is this really just a friend? Is this person in my life just for a season? Or is this really a lifelong mate? But the real questions that we should ask when we get in the relationships, for me or for anyone that has a faith or have values, is like, number one, am I a suitable mate for someone, given all that I go through, all that I want, all that I do? And then is this other individual suitable to be a mate? We each ask that question of ourselves. And then we figure out how what we are mold together and shape the relationship. And how do we get deeper? I think we prematurely get too close to someone without knowing them and knowing much about their past and family. And then when it's time that, oh, I want to get engaged, we're thinking about getting married, then all of that stuff comes out, the woodworks, because we never really took time as we were developing our relationship and growing and getting to know each other. We didn't talk about those things.
So I want to go back on something you just said, right? Because I've always found it a really difficult thing to actually try and figure out. How do you figure out whether there's somebody you've met, bearing in mind I'm a Libra, right? So we're in love with love, right? We love everyone we love, right? But how do you figure out whether that person you've met is a friend, is somebody who's just going to be around for a season and should be just around for a season to help you grow or develop in certain way, or that they're going to be around for your life. They're a life partner.
To some degree, we really don't know. To some degree. So some degree, well, what I want to say when I say that we really don't know is as you get to know each other, do you have those mutual things in common? Do you mutually have the same values? Do you have the same goals? Do you have the same faith? Do you, do how you want to raise your children? Is it the same? It may be different, but how do we navigate together? We don't want to marry the same person that is like us. So we're going to meet someone that's opposite of us in our personality. But how do we navigate those two personalities? One can be strong-willed and domineering, and the other one can be passive and not as assertive. But you work through that relationship, and it all comes with getting to know each other. It's in that getting to know each other phase. I think some of us, we get each other's name, and then we skip over some of the steps, And so then now we wake up and we're like, oh, I have a baby with him or her, and I really don't like this person anymore because we didn't take time to nurture the relationship to even know if it is suitable for long-term, short-term, or whatever, because we've glossed over so much, or we skipped over so much that goes into building a relationship.
So how do you start that process then? So how do you nurture it? Because you said something very interesting earlier, and you
spend time with each other. Time.
Okay.
You spend time with each other.
Doing what?
You observe the individual.
We know what, right? Especially if it's a new relationship, right? Or whatever. But but spending time, but should there be certain things that you're asking that person, finding out about that person, challenging that person too? And I'm thinking about this really from being a single parent, right? And going out there on these blooming dating apps, God love them, that, the dating apps are an initial way to actually meet people. I don't like them because I feel like you're shopping for a person, you're shopping for a partner. And it's like picking shoes, right? It's going there and you go, oh, I like that shape. I like that color. Oh, I like, something going on there or whatever, right? That's got blue spots on like that or whatever. And so I feel like nowadays we're shopping for a person, right? However, everyone is shopping for a person, right? So it seems as though people have given up meeting people the normal face-to-face old-fashioned way, right? And I was having a conversation about this at the weekend. So how do you then develop and nurture that relationship and find out whether this person's, it's just a friend or whatever? What do you do?
You got to talk to each other. Okay. You got to see if their values do everything.
Okay.
Everything's on the table,
Okay.
Life, their challenges. Do you have past addictions? If so, what are they? Does alcoholism run in your family? Does drug addictions run in your family? Were you one of them? Did you have to go to a rehab? Did you, how do you get along with your mother? How do you get along with your siblings? Because that's, how are you going to develop relationships? If you can't form a relationship with just your biological family, now, sometimes you just can't, because every one of us have our own thought processes about family, but do you have a genuine love and respect? You don't have to see them every day, but can you, decipher the healthiness of it, the toxicity of it? Those are things that you got to talk about. You got to talk about different things, your likes, your dislikes. Sometimes the responses will give you a red flag. You say, "Ooh, whoa, I better wait a minute,"
Okay.
And then if you're around someone and they're at an event and then they can't walk out the way that they came in,
Red flag.
That's a red flag.
That ain't an amber one. That's a red one. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This person can't really sit down and talk without being violent in their disrespectful way of words. This person don't know how to sit down. Are they avoiders? Do they avoid the conversation? When you table it, do they really want to go back to it? So those type of things. Are you willing to make adjustments in your own, within yourself, to make sure that you can work through whatever challenges that you have gone through? So those are some examples. We don't want to get to know people. We want to hurry up. Some people desire to get married. So you say, oh, I met this guy. Oh my gosh. It's so quick. Well, we're too quick for that. Get to observe him. Not just with him.
Do you think we hold a checklist, an ideal picture of somebody in our heads, and then we meet them and we go, well, this dude has got X, Y, and Z, but he doesn't talk to his family, or there's family issues or whatever, but that's okay. We can deal with that. And you do you think that's why people get into those situations where they marry the wrong person, or they, find issues in their marriage?
I think they
opportunities.
Right. They don't talk about them, though. They don't talk about the challenges. They don't talk about the opportunities of moving forward. You can have some unhealthy relationships in your life. It could be your friends. It could be, do you really have a job? You say the dating app. Anybody could put anything down on the dating app. So you really got to make sure. And one thing about it is, you don't be isolating yourself with the individual.
What do you mean by that?
You let others know that you talk to your mentor, if you have a mentor, or you talk to a close friend, someone that you can confide in, that I met this individual online. Here's where we're going, because now you're going to meet in person, right? So
you tell them where you're meeting them and stuff like that, so they don't go. Okay, so you don't disappear off the face of the earth.
Right. Some people are so secretive, right, about the situation, but you really need to have someone know something about your whereabouts. You can't just isolate yourself from somebody that you don't know. Talking to them 4 to 5 times a day, or 4 to 5 times out of the week, or on the phone. We've talked 3 months now, or 2 months on the phone, and they're flying in, or he's flying, whatever it is. You have to let someone know, because you're so in it that someone that has your best interest may be able to see something different than what you see, and may be able to share it. So be open and not offended for family that love you, or friends that love you, that are trying to tell you something that they see in the person just by what you're describing versus what you may see. A red flag that I've seen in the news is that you meet someone and then they start asking you for money.
Oh God.
Sure.
That's a massive red flag for me. I just go, thanks, see ya. I have my own problems.
I know, but you do want to make sure that that person is financially stable and secure if it's a relationship. But before you say I do, you got to get to know this person a little bit more. I think what happens is people are prematurely getting married faster than really getting to know the individual.
Why do you think that is?
I would say it could be multiple reasons.
Is it just because it's too easy to get a divorce nowadays, that they just go, oh, I'll get married, and if it don't work out, I'm going to divorce them?
I don't even know if it's that, as much as it's just that I'm with somebody. I have somebody. Now I'm not single anymore.
But being single is so great. Like I've been single for like 5 years, right? So being single's not too bad, right? You're your own boss.
You're your own boss, but also I just think you really, even when you're single and you meet someone, you don't introduce them to your son right away. You get to know them. You're not even you're just in the get to know you phase. So there's no real reason for them to know your son. You want to make sure that who you bring around your son, or even your child or children, that is somebody that you can trust around them. That is somebody that when it is time, that you know enough about them to know their past history, to know whether it's a positive person to be around your children.
See, Veronica,
And
you don't know my son. My son's gone, whoever you date, I need to meet them. And he's got a questionnaire and he's like, puts out this questionnaire and goes, right, can you answer all these questions and are you good enough for my mum? So my son is like, son. And he's only 7, right? God knows what it'll be like at 20. But yeah, no, wow.
But it is important to ask critical questions. It's important to ask critical questions. It's important to get to know the person a little more than just their name, where they live, because when you're online, do they really live where they're living? Yeah. You know, do they really live where they say that they live? Or are they, I've heard people, are you living a double life?
Wow. You know, catfishing.
That's a good question.
There's a whole TV series on catfishing and we've seen it.
Double life. Yeah. So there's so much that goes into building a relationship than just saying that I'm in a relationship. So we need to spend time building a friendship, building, you know, and then mutually knowing and identifying different attributes. Does this person really possess an attribute that I want to have in my life? You know?
Yeah.
Is this person really good for me in terms of, they have such a great personality. They can help me navigate through my situations with my family. You know, how would they deal with it? Because it could be a toxic family environment. Are they capable of handling where it is? Do they know how to let you handle it and then they step out of it, or do they get right in?
Should you Should you test this person? Should you give them little tests so you can see how they deal with the situation?
Well, putting them, I don't think it's a test as much as finding yourselves going to various different environments and observing that individual that way. It could be indoor places, it can be outdoor places. When getting to know someone, it would be a good public place, right? To always meet, especially those that are dating online. And so just always go somewhere in a public space so that should anything happen is observed, because you don't really know them. They say they're one thing on the phone, but you won't know until you're really in front of them. And I mean, it takes trusting someone, that they say who they are, who they say that they are. You don't want to go in not trusting, but you do want to go in with some type of, I don't want to say a guard, but some type of boundaries or some type of knowledge of learning how to, you know, a lot of people don't really know how to be even in a relationship. Let's just say that.
That's a big statement.
So sometimes we might need to talk to someone to just say, you know what, the past relationships I had were all toxic.
Yeah.
They might have been domestic. I'm not really sure how to love again after what I've gone through. Well, I'm not even sure if I could handle this. So that's a good time, not really looking for marriage per se, but looking to some type of counselor, a coach, to help you navigate the relationship. Yeah. Especially when, and even when there's a blended family that's going to be involved, even when there's blended children, I don't think people think about that, but sometimes you do need that because we have gone through so much that has traumatized us that we may not even think that we can love again or that we're healthy enough to be in a relationship. So you want to make sure that you're healthy enough. You want to make sure that there's been a time span from being in the last relationship to now where you've learned who you are. You've gotten to know yourself because a lot of times I've heard people say that they lost themselves in the relationship because they focus more on the other person and not themselves.
Yeah.
And then now when the relationship is no more, they're waking up lost and feeling as though they lost everything, including who they were. And so now they have to build up their self-confidence, self-esteem, um, to even be able to get back in a relationship. And when you have children, you want to be able to be how we handle our children in that aspect is that we try to model the best positive relationships that we can. We try to demonstrate that. We try to put that before them. And ways that they can find it is through their teachers, their coaches, if they're playing a sport or some type of school activity. And then for people that genuinely have their best interest. I think actions speak louder than the words. People could say anything, but it's really their actions that would demonstrate that they love you, that would demonstrate that they respect you, and that they would demonstrate that they really have a care for you. You know, that they really are interested in what you're interested in. I'm not selfish. I've tried to remove selfishness out of it so that I can learn how to blend and mold and invite someone else into my space.
Yeah. And I've got to say, being a single parent, right, my biggest concern is that my son comes from a separated family, right? I'm no longer with his dad. So then how do I and how do other single parents out there teach our children to have healthy relationships, right? How do we go down that avenue of teaching them to have these healthy relationships when we're not in a relationship ourselves as such?
You teach them how to love themselves first.
Okay, fair enough.
And you teach them to feel like it's okay to be by yourself. I don't have to fill my life up with people. But it's going to be relationships. For our children, their relationships start in preschool, daycare, because they're learning the social aspect with their peers. They're learning how to share. They're learning how to give and take. They're learning how to love and like. Maybe it won't be the word love, but it's going love and dislike. They learn the characteristics or the personalities of other people that they may not want to be around, or that they feel empowered to be around. Someone that is encouraging them, someone that has their best interest, that shows care and concern. When they're sad, is there someone that goes by and say, "Why? Don't cry. Your mommy's going to come back." You know, they learn that when they have to depart and have that separation anxiety, leaving their parents to go to school. So we have to nurture our children that way. And as they grow up, we have to teach them the type of proper relationships. And we have to keep communication with our children. As they grow older, we have to continue to see them as they grow. I have a teenager. I have to realize that my teenager is not a baby anymore. They're coming out of their shell to where they feel like a parent is controlling them when we really are trying to parent them. But even as parents, we have to realize our parenting has to be a little different from when they were elementary school age, middle school age. Now they're high schoolers. They're learning more. The relationships that they're going to be developing are a little bit more deeper now. Now they are getting to a point where they may like the opposite sex, to say that. Then there's so many other attributes in there. I don't even want to bring that. So how do we teach our children the proper, we have to teach them the proper relationships. For us, we are a family of faith, so we teach them in a way that is that are the values and the morals that we abide by through our faith, onto how to make good decisions about friendships, how to navigate, how to separate from individuals that don't display the characteristics of people that you want to be around.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is, learning how do I distance myself from someone, but still I have to see them on a daily basis, and that happens in relationships, right?
Yeah. Well, it happens at work, at school, everywhere, doesn't it?
And then, you know, learning how to be amicable. You know, I think, as you know, like you say, you're a single mom with your son's father. It may not have ended well. It may have ended well. You may have met someone else. I may have met someone else. But let's get beyond that. But let's just try to teach our son that even though mom and dad aren't together, we're going to do the best that we can with in your best interest to get along and to be able to be accepting of the other person, even though I might not have anyone or they may have someone. But how are we going to blend our family? Because now, truth be told, our family is blended.
Yeah.
So learning how to nurture relationships, to be amicable, to be peaceful, to be loving. Because the truth of the matter is, we all meet people where we have to separate from them. But even if we're in their presence, how can we just be there in a peaceful way without anger? You know, because I know there's so many phases when you're in a relationship that you have to go through and process. You know, you're no way the way that you were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So you've grown. So we have to grow. We have to grow out of that relationship. We have to grow to accept the way that it is, and to realize that it's not even about you and me or you and I. It's about our son. What can we do to make sure that our children see that we may not be together, but we're going to get along? Because the truth of the matter is, that child is going to grow up. They're going to have graduations. They're going to have marriages. They're going to have children, possibly. They're going to have their own families. And how can we still be able to share in those experiences in a loving and kind way, even though we're not together?
Well, and I suppose when they get to teenage years, you're also giving them the freedom to be able to make their own mistakes. We can't helicopter parent our child at that stage, because hopefully we've laid the foundations and they've got to go out there and make their own mistakes, haven't they?
They do. And they will make them. How you train up your child and how you allow them to grow and develop is what's going to go into action with those decision makings in high school, but mainly after high school, whether they go to college, whether they go to the military, whether they just get a regular job or vocation. How we train them up is going to make them, is how they're going to, is how we're teaching them to make the right decisions. And being able to let go and allow them, just when they were learning to walk, there's a whole new phase. We have to learn to let go and allow them to have that exposure. We have to allow them to experience life for themselves. But as a parent, we're never just letting them go. We're still their best advocate, and we're still here to help them navigate things when they want us to. So we always let them know, like, we're just a phone call away.
Yeah.
So you work on building a relationship where your children want to talk to you, where they feel like they can share the most hurtful thing, the most dangerous thing. You want that. You don't want your children to be fearful of you to a degree that they're going through something so traumatic, or so that they don't feel like they can share it with their parents. So you do want to have an open relationship where your children know that if I can't tell anyone, I could tell my mom, I could tell my dad, because there won't be any judgment, and they will embrace me for who I am and embrace my situation.
So how do you do that if you find out your child is, I don't know, off the top of my head, smoking marijuana, right? So it's against, like, I wouldn't be chuffed if I found out my child was smoking marijuana. I would be really annoyed, right? But then how do you approach a subject like that with a teenage child, boy or girl? Because let's face it, they both can do the same sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you face it with them without going, oh my God, what that, and exploding, and letting them understand that it's not okay, but that, you're not happy about it, and it's not healthy for them. How do you cover that off without hitting the roof?
You have to have a conversation. You have to talk about those aspects of it. I know for us, when COVID hit, we had a family game night. And I think for everybody's on the go. Everybody has so many activities or whatever that we forget that we need to sit at the dinner table and conversate and talk about it and know what you're feeling, know what you're going through, why you're doing what you're doing. And, I think when we, as a parent, of course, we want to hit the rooftop, but I think we have to bring it down a couple of notches and be able to talk with them in a way that they will be open to share with us. And then we can share with them our thoughts about it. Not judgmental, but in a caring and loving way. And that if they need the help, to get them the help, that they need the help. Because I know some parents that have experienced that. Their kids say, I don't want to do it, but it's just here. Some kids are doing it, and some kids are doing it too because they've learned that that's what keeps them it keeps them mellow from dealing with the toxicity in the family between mom and dad. That's how they do. They cope. Or they learn it through friends. They learn it in their communities, or they just decide that this is something I want to try. I want to do it, and it now becomes a habit. So you have to have those conversations long before they're at the age of doing it. Whether it's even being promiscuous, talking about self-image, talking about what, morals and values and what they all mean, and what image do you want to put off to others. You may want to dress a certain way. No, you don't have control of what other people say or think about you, but you don't want to put yourself in an awkward position to have to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to have those conversations, talk with them, let them know that, continuing down this path, you won't have a job. It may be legal, but it may not be acceptable in the job market. It may, you don't realize you won't be able to have a secure clearance type of job that you want to have because of your past history.
Yeah.
So just talking to them at a young age, what do you want to do? sharing with them and discussing, well, this is how you're going to reach that goal. How do you think you're going to reach that goal? Putting them in the proper places and activities and programs that will keep their mind occupied to stay focused, to stay on their journey of what they want to achieve.
Yeah.
Teaching them young how to develop goals and how and steps to achieve it. What must I do? Children, you're in school. You have one thing to do, and that is make good grades. And then
you make it sound so simple.
It's not simple. But if you find that your child is having some difficulties, getting a tutor. We can't find a tutor, but you talk to your school teachers. Teachers are willing to stay after school to help our kids. We have to use the resources that are available to us. Yeah. Talk to our guidance counselors. Talk to our principals. Talk to your child's teachers. Have go to the parent-teacher conferences. If you don't go, you won't even know that your teachers even see a change in your child. And you're so busy, you work odd hours, the children are left at home, they're latchkey kids now. You don't see them, you may come home and they might be already asleep. And you may see them first thing in the morning when they're off to school, but you don't really know what's going on. Did they really do their homework last night? Did they go to school? Did they stay home because they felt like they did? Are parents really controlling, or are you really trying to parent? So we have to make those adjustments, even as parents. We don't have, and we have to let our kids know some of our own past faults, because we as parents are not perfect. We had to go through the same things that they do. That's why, they try to trick you, but they can't. And they're like, how does she even know? Yeah. But being in tune with them, realizing when there's changes and when there's some development things going on and when there's some emotional things going on, and not being afraid to deal with it. Not being in denial that it is happening or that it isn't happening. Yeah. Trying to, but it all starts from when they're young and developing a relationship then. It may go wrong. It may go wrong sometimes. So sometimes we may need to see counselors or therapists to help us navigate our relationships. Because the one thing we don't want to do, we talk about having generational curses, but I like to say that how we help our children navigate through life with positive things in their life, it sets them up for a generational legacy. We switch the words. That what my parents did wrong or tried to do, they got the help to navigate through our relationship, through our situation of challenges that we had. And now I'm set up to succeed. Now I've learned how to set goals. I've learned how to set boundaries. I had to see my parents as not controlling. Now that I'm a teenager and I'm tired of being told what to do. You live under our roof. You don't have a job, and even if you had a job, that doesn't dictate what you can and cannot do. You're not an adult. You're still a minor child. You still have supervision. Yeah. They try to, our schools now teach our kids, they're teaching them to be responsible. I like that. Mm. But I also think they get to a point where parents tend to, when the kids get to middle school and high school, they hands-off parents. But kids ultimately still want you to be involved. Our involvement is a little bit different now. Our conversations are a little different now. How we discipline, it even shifts from how we discipline when you were in elementary school, middle school, and high school. So we have to learn how to navigate our current circumstances and our current statuses, where we're different. And we want our kids to be leaders and not followers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they demonstrate that with the parents. But we also have to teach them how to do it in a way that is respectful and not disrespectful, that is loving and not passive aggressive, like realizing that I got your best interest. I'm not your enemy. Mom and dad is not your enemy.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are here. And it may not even just be mom and dad. Some children are living with relatives. They're living in foster care. They have so many areas that mom and dad may not be there for them, whether they lost parents at a young age, or whether they're not capable of taking care of them and they had to get some guardianship from other relatives to step in. So we still have to navigate life with our children as they grow and develop and teach them to be mature. I always like to say how can, what we do as our children develop is how we're going to raise spiritually and just regular children with morals and values to be mature. So it's how we do it and what we're doing. And even as parents, when we don't get a response from our kids, are they really just being stoic and distancing themselves because they're doing something wrong, or we're just coming at them in a way that they're not ready to handle? So we have to make those shifts. And as adults, I grew up like, you do what I say and not what I do.
Yeah.
Or you get over there and you do what I say. And don't ask any questions. But we have to realize that might not be the case for the children today, because they are pseudo-mature at such a young age, and that they have their own mind. Some of them are strong-willed. Some of them just want to explore and be creative. We have to identify why they're doing what they do, because that's their way of expressing themselves. And we don't want to be the ones to kill our children's spirit.
No.
And to kill our children's dreams, and to kill our children from growing.
And at the end of the day, they're our children, right? But they're not, we don't own them. They are their own people, right? They are not our possession to do what we want them to do. They are their own people. We don't own them.
And they're human. They're human.
Yeah.
And they're going to grow up to be adults. So it's better to train them now.
Yeah.
To be a good child in their adolescence.
To give them all the tools that they need to have.
We got to give them the tools. I say it all the time. But to give them the tools to become adults. And one way is that we do have to show them, and we do have to we do have to put them in situations to make good decisions.
But safe situations, isn't it? It's putting them in situations where they can still come back to you and go, oh, I didn't do so well in that situation. That wasn't very good. And we can then challenge them and go, well, okay, what did you learn from that situation? How would you do it differently? Mm-hmm. What would happen if you'd have done it like that? What would you think the potential outcome is, or whatever? And challenge them back. Yeah.
Exactly. And kids aren't being defiant. They just don't want to do it the way that we do it. Who's to say our way is perfect? They want to do it in the way that their minds capture.
And do you know what? It wouldn't have mattered if my mum had known how to do something and it was 110% correct, right? I want to do it my way and learn my mistakes. And I know it's frustrating as a parent, right? But you sort of have to go, all right, I've told you, but you do it your way. Because you just know, right? And it's just.
Yeah, and not be in such a I told you so mode. Yeah. But to allow them to make that decision. And then come back to say, I should have done it your way. You were right. But I think what we do in all of that is teaching our children how to own up to their mistakes, how to own up to being responsible,
Yeah.
how to own up to anything that may not go right or wrong. And then we have to teach our kids not only to love, but we have to also teach our children to forgive, and to move forward out of that.
Yeah.
Those are some
No.
key aspects that we can train our children in the way that they should go, that they will continue to have those things ingrained in them.
No, that's wise words, Veronica. That's wise words. Look, thank you for coming on here and talking to us about all of these things. We've gone from couples to online dating to children. It's amazing. Look, there's so much to talk about on here. Look, if people wanted to find you online and get in contact with you, how would they get in contact with you?
They can get in contact. If you're on Facebook, you can just type in Alliance Seminars Coaching, or either you can go to our website, is www.allianceseminars.org. Alliance Seminars is one word.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. Awesome. And look, you've given us so many gems today in this podcast, but my final question is, what is a piece of advice that was given to you that you still use today? What do you still use today?
One of the things that I still use today is that when you're faced with a challenge, it's not there to stay. It's temporary.
Yeah.
And view your challenges as something to catapult you to grow. Without the challenges, we can't grow. In essence, is what that says. So embrace the challenges and realize that you may fall down, but get back up because you're resilient.
Yeah.
You're resilient. And that's what happened. Having the ability to get back up from whatever storm or challenge that you're faced with.
And it happens to everyone and anyone. It doesn't matter how much money you've got, where you live, how successful you are in your job, with your family, or anything like that, right? All these challenges happen to everyone and anyone, right? So, yeah.
I call it life. Life happens. And so when life happens, we have to be resilient. We have to get back up and then also reach out to other people.
Yeah.
That's number one. Don't isolate yourself. Reach out to other people for help.
Yeah, because I think if you think you're the only one who can solve the problem, you're wrong. For number one, you're wrong. And a problem halved is a problem shared, is a problem solved, or whatever the saying is. So it's all good. It's all good. Look, Veronica, thank you so much for today. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And I wish you every success with what you're doing.
Thank you, Claire, and I wish you success as well. And thank you for just having me. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you would like to hear more, please hit subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. If you would like to support us further, share this episode with your friends and family. And finally, drop us a review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and ideas. It all helps me to understand and produce awesome content you want to hear just like this. If you want to check out our past episodes, write to us, appear on the podcast, or for links, resources, and show notes, go to our website, www.strongsingleandhuman.com. We are also on all the usual social media platforms, Insta, Facey, and Twitter. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Be kind to yourself, and remember, no one is perfect. We're all just putting one foot in front of the other and doing our best. I'm Claire Martin, and you've been listening to the Strong, Single, and Human podcast.